Okay, here we go. Welcome to the Sunder the Sky podcast. I am your host, Christopher Sky Sunderer, coming to you from my fortified bunker deep beneath the streets of Kent, Ohio. It is Saturday, July 24th, 2021. I'm recording in the early hours of the morning so as to avoid possible interruption. I just want to put something together for you guys real quick. This probably will go up on YouTube because it's going to be real short and sweet. So the Ku Klux Klan associate and credibly alleged rapist Joe Biden recently held a town hall event hosted by sexual assault perpetrator Don Lemon, and seen a lot of commentators commenting on this, and I think some people have missed the mark on a few things, and I just wanted to run through this very quickly. I'm not going to make you sit through the whole damn thing. Okay, I had an idea that maybe I would just do like a watch-along thing where I just do a video watching the town hall and responding to it in real time, and no, let's just do a short video, and I'll point out some things that I noticed. Everybody knows this guy's full of crap. So I'm not going to make you sit through the whole thing. It's just there are certain things that I think are being missed, and most of it is only being missed by a very narrow margin, by people that I respect. And I just want to point some of these things out, okay? So we're just going to run through some of the things that popped out to me.
Good evening, everyone. We are live in Cincinnati, Ohio tonight on the campus of Mount St. Joseph University, overlooking the Ohio River. This is a CNN town hall with the President of the United States, Joe Biden. I'm Don Lemon. President Biden is 6 months into his presidency, facing a critical moment for his agenda. Nearly half of the U.S. population is now fully vaccinated against COVID-19. But the pace of the vaccination is at its lowest point since January, and the highly infectious Delta variant is driving a new COVID surge in all 50 states. Virtually all COVID hospitalizations and deaths are now among the unvaccinated. So tonight, we are here in Ohio taking questions from a live audience as the president works to keep the pandemic in check and his goal of an infrastructure deal on track. It is really a critical moment for his agenda. We will take questions from some who voted for the president and some who did not vote for President Biden. And the president and myself and everyone here in our audience, we are all fully vaccinated.
Okay, so everyone in the room is vaccinated. So not a human among you. See my last episode.
So you seem pretty confident that inflation is temporary, but if you're pumping all of this money into the economy, couldn't that add to...
No, look, here's the deal. Moody's today, when a Wall Street firm, not some liberal think tank, said if we pass the other two things I'm trying to get done, we will in fact reduce inflation. Reduce inflation. Reduce inflation. Because they're going to be providing good opportunities and jobs for people who, in fact, are going to be reinvesting that money back in all the things we're talking about, driving down prices, not raising prices. And so it is, I sincerely mean this. Prices are up now, and they're up in, for example, you're in a position where you're trying to build a house, try to find 2x4s and lumber. Well, guess what? People stopped working cutting lumber. They stopped doing it because the unemployment was so down. Now, all of a sudden, there's this need because people are coming back. And guess what? Instead of paying 10 cents, you're paying 20. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It relates to what, in fact, is now needed because we're growing. I don't know anybody, including Larry Summers, who's a friend of mine, who's worried about inflation, is suggesting that there's any long-term march here if we do the things we're going to do.
Okay, folks. So this is the main crux of what I wanted to underline here. Okay, when he says this, okay, he's making an extraordinary claim, and he makes several extraordinary claims throughout this hour and a half bullshit session. The one that stands out to me the most is this: printing money. This is not going to increase or accelerate inflation. This is literally the dumbest thing I can think of that anyone could say about inflation. I mean, it really is. And I will explain. I will explain objectively why that is the case. Okay, because I hear a lot of conservative and libertarian and even some centrist commentators and pundits talking about this town hall, and they're getting this a little wrong too. Okay, in particular, I was listening to Sargon of Akkad and his buddy there. They do this new podcast I've been watching on and off on YouTube called the Podcast of the Lotus Eaters. I don't know who the other guy is. Okay, I only know him from this podcast. But I've been a Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad fan for years. Okay, so, but they talked about this. And they said, no, so money printing certainly doesn't slow down inflation. If anything, it speeds it up. No, guys. As much as I respect you, I'm sorry, but you're off on this too, albeit slightly. The way that you're off on this is okay, it's understandable. And a lot of other conservative, libertarian, centrist, and otherwise non-leftist commentators are making this same mistake. And it's an understandable mistake to make. Look, not everybody went to college for economics. Okay? I did. So take it from me. Let me explain how people are just missing the mark minorly, and how Biden has said literally the dumbest thing anyone can say about inflation. Money printing, it doesn't slow down inflation or reduce inflation, as Biden says, nor does it speed it up. Not exactly. Money printing, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Sky Sunderers, is inflation. Let me say this again. Money printing is what inflation is. Maybe that still didn't register. Okay. Inflation is money printing. Money printing is inflation. I wish I could do it again, but I cannot think of a clearer way to say this. Inflation is money printing. Money printing is inflation. That's what inflation is. It's when the government prints more money to inflate the money supply. That's why it's called inflation. A lot of people in this day and age, and going back a few decades now, assume the term inflation refers to an effect on prices of common goods and services going up or inflating. The prices are inflating. That's not what it means. Inflation refers to the artificial inflation of the money supply in an economy. It's something the Federal Reserve has been doing since the Federal Reserve Act, and really stepped it up and started doing it a lot more when Nixon took us off the gold standard. Oh my God! Then they just went nuts with it. But they used to say on the evening news, the government is going to be putting us through another round of inflation to ease some of the struggling middle class in the economy. Government is planning another round of inflation in the third quarter of this year. So sometime this fall, expect a round of inflation. And people thought, oh good, we're going to get some extra money. But people learned very quickly, this does the exact opposite of what the government says it's going to do. It doesn't help that you suddenly have 30% more money if everything in the store costs 40% more to buy. Because you see, I want to try to explain this. Let's use a little microcosm to explain how this works. Okay, this is what a lot of people have described as the invisible tax. It is one of the most insidious ways that the government steals your money. Okay, let's say we have this tiny little microcosm community. In this community, people are working, building things. There are fishermen who fish and provide fish for the village. There are hunters who hunt and provide pelts for the village. There are people who take those pelts and make clothing for the village. There are people who build and repair homes for the village, etc., etc. In this village economy, they use money units that we'll call dollars, okay, for the sake of expediency. And we will say that in this little microcosm, the total economy contains $100,000. Each dollar is like one buying point of capital value. Okay, so $1, one buying point, $100,000 in the economy, so 100,000 buying points in the economy. Good so far? And as people are continuing to work, continuing to build new cabins, improving the ways in which cabins can be built, improving the ways in which fish can be caught, etc., etc. People are adding new capital value to the economy, but not adding any money to it. The money stays fixed at $100,000. So what happens to the value of the money? Each dollar represents a certain portion or percentage of the market value of the economy. The money becomes more valuable over time. So what $1 will buy in year one of our example, you'll be able to buy with half of a dollar or a quarter of a dollar in year 10 of our example. So people might be making the same amount of money in terms of dollars and cents, in terms of the numbers, but their buying power is increasing dramatically over time because the money is becoming more valuable, because the market value of their community and their economy is becoming more valuable because they're productive. So far, we've got an economy with $100,000, okay, and each of those dollars is now worth like 4 buying points. Just to keep this example really simple, okay? And let's say the people decide, well, we need more money to spread around. We need more money to buy things, so we're all going to have more money. So they create more dollars. They actually double the amount of dollars. But they didn't double the amount of value in the market economy. See, there were $100,000 representing 400,000 buying points. Now there are $200,000 in the economy. Everybody's wallet is now twice as full, but each of those dollars only represents 2 buying points now instead of 4. And people realize this very quickly. They're like, well, my goods and services are now going to have to, you're going to have to give me more in order to acquire my goods and services. If I was selling something for 4 buying points before, I'm still going to charge 4 buying points, only now that's going to be $2, not 1. And if these people do something profoundly stupid, like let's say we've got a government running all this. Here's how the invisible tax happens, right? When the government prints that additional $100,000, they keep half of it in their own coffers. So what just happened? The $50,000 that are now in the federal tax coffers didn't exist a minute ago. Each dollar, now that there are $200,000 in the economy, each dollar now represents 2 buying points. So every dollar in private hands just went down in value by half. And the government just acquired 100,000 buying points into their coffers that were stolen out of the public. They transferred the value right out of your money into their own hands. Do you understand now what inflation is? Do you understand now that no matter what they call it, it was originally called inflation, and then truly venomous snakes like Greenspan and Bernanke and Krugman started using terms like quantitative easing. Other snakes like Bush, Clinton, Obama started calling it stimulus. What it really is, every time, is a tax. Inflation is money printing. Money printing is inflation. And all it does is steal value out of privately held money and transfer it to government coffers. That's it. It is the invisible tax, and most people don't even know what inflation means. They have the wrong idea about what inflation means to begin with. This is what lies at the heart of the battle that Ron Paul has been fighting his entire life. End the Fed. This is what it's about. The Federal Reserve centralized fractional reserve banking scam. This is the heart of how that global fraud works. Okay, this is how they finance everything. Well, it's 1/2 to 1/3 of how they finance everything. They print a bunch of new money, keep a big chunk of it for themselves, and they've effectively just transferred a bunch of value out of your money. And you know what? They don't even keep all of the transferred value. A lot of it just gets pissed away into the wind. Nobody even gets it. It's like a thief coming in and setting half of your money on fire, stealing half of the remaining half, and leaving you with the quarter that's left. And the government does this every single time. It's not always those percentages that I just listed, but this is what they're doing. Every single time you hear the words stimulus, quantitative easing, relief package, this is it. Those $1,200 stimulus checks from last year, the $600 check and the $1,400 check since, and the new thing they're trying to pass, which sounds insane. They're shooting for between $2,000 and $4,000 checks. Folks, we're going to see gas hit $10 a gallon before too long. You're going to be paying for lumber like it's a precious fucking metal. What is increased gas, lumber, food, motor oil? What is increasing those prices if not a tax on the middle class? And that's a hidden tax on the middle class on top of the quantitative easing inflation money printing tax that I just described to you with our microcosm town example. It's just theft, 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 theft all day long, over and over and over again. Whenever the government sticks its big fucking nose into anything with a dollar sign anywhere near it, you're walking away from that conversation light. Always keep this in mind. You are a useless eater to them. Until and unless they can get something from you. If you're poor, all they want from you is your vote. If you're not poor, they want your money until you're poor, and then your vote. Well, what's the end game of that? Then everybody runs out of money, and then where are they? Folks, they're not long-term planners. They're communists. It's the same thing that happens to every communist scheme down through history. You've got a small, cloistered elite in their big, shiny mansions with their private vineyards and private farms where the good stuff is grown and cultivated. And everybody else is out there harvesting the collective's potatoes and eating the bug powder. That is where they're driving this. Build toys for the elites. You know, work your 12-hour days in the factory or out in the fields. Go home to your pod. Plug into your daily ration of entertainment media. Eat your bug protein. Own nothing and be happy. And if you're not happy, well, something's wrong with you. We're going to have to send you somewhere. That's where this is going. And I will tell you what. Candace Owens has hit the nail on the head about everything going on in the media right now. Joe Biden talked repeatedly about the fucking vaccines, which are not vaccines. Okay? It's like, well, you know, the COVID cases are rising up again in the unvaccinated. That's not true. Anybody else makes that claim, they get fact checks slapped over their posts, right? He gets a pass. So you got to care about your fellow man. Kamala Harris just quoted scripture saying, getting vaccinated is really at the heart of living a life of faith. It's love thy neighbor. Hey, fuck you, bitch. Which part of love thy neighbor is sicking cops on poor homeless women to bully them about their kids missing school? Candace Owens hit the nail on the head. This is all about, well, it's Trump supporters, it's conservatives who are not getting vaccinated. This is all about this is all about the media trying to convince a plurality of the American people that conservatives are vermin. And we got to do something about vermin, right? And you watch, where suddenly the conversation will turn soon to re-education. You watch. I'll be back soon.
We still have comedy, though. We still have great comedy out there. There's always rambling Joe Biden. What the fuck? Joe says shit that even people with Tourette's go, no. No. What is going on? Joe is like your uncle who's on a new drug and hasn't got the dosage right. I'm proud to work with Barack America. He's not a superhero, you idiot. Come here. When FDR was on television, there was no TV back then. Come here, Joe. Sit down.